What's up? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. It is Friday, July 9th. Hope you all had a fantastic week. I kicked out my top 10 albums of the year so far at the beginning of it and decided that a few days off from the channel were in order, so it was nice to relax, hit the reset button, and I'm stoked to be back to talk about the brand new record from the Wallflowers entitled Exit Wounds. This is their 7th studio album. It is their follow-up to 2012's Glad All Over, and I'm glad all over to have Jakob Dylan back. I absolutely love this guy. The Wallflowers, basically his project for the last 2 decades. There was a period of time in the 90s between Bringing Down the Horse and Breach where they had their most consistent lineup, and I think a lot of people did identify the Wallflowers as a band, but for the most part, he has been the major creative force behind this moniker for the last 2 decades, and I think that's an excellent thing. He's one of the most overlooked and underrated songwriters of the last 30 years, in my opinion. Can attribute that to a couple of things. He's been very consistent with his songwriting style, deep Americana style rooted in folk, blues, all sorts of different roots music. I absolutely love his songwriting style, the way he structures songs, the way he incorporates different musical elements into them. Absolutely beautiful. But let's face it, folk music, this style of music isn't always necessarily at the forefront of what's really popular at the moment, especially in the last 30 years. There was a time when they put out Bringing Down the Horse in the mid-90s there, where rock was in such a state of flux, and that's why I attribute that to a big part of their success. As far as that album just being fantastic all around, there was just a time in rock and roll where grunge had fallen off, and you had all different sorts of bands, Radiohead, just to name one example right off the top of my head, that were experimenting with the rock sound, doing different things. And the Wallflowers were one of those bands that definitely benefited from that period of growth. Now, unfortunately, post-grunge and pop-punk is what we got as a result of that period, and that kind of sucks. But what I will say is even now with folk albums, there are ones that come to the forefront, but even then they're being driven by, pop stars. Taylor Swift, perfect example. I love Folklore. I think that was a great record. But I will argue that Jakob Dylan can write a pop hook into a folk song better than Taylor Swift any day. I think it's one of the things that makes his music so strong and so consistently great is his ability to write great pop style hooks into this folk Americana style without making it seem contrived, without making it seem forced. It's one of the best things that he does as a songwriter. And Exit Wounds, from start to finish, is just a really fine example of that. This album opens with Maybe Your Heart's Not In It No More. I think it's just a really fun, ironic song title to kick this thing off with. And really, truly, because you can tell that Jakob Dylan's heart is fully in this record. It is arguably the best thing that they've put out since Bringing Down the Horse. But that song really highlights all of the wonderful things that are going on this record. Great, strong guitar work, lots of good, clean riffs on this record throughout it. Lots of great instrumentation too, mandolin, banjo, organ, and all these components are just built into these songs in a very lovely, nuanced way. Really just the production on this record is outstanding. Really am a big fan of the rhythm section as well, drums and bass, just from start to finish again on all 10 of these songs. Really just a lovely job done by those musicians there. You get this awesome Springsteen vibe, and kind of, I felt REM a little bit, like when they started to flesh out their sound in the 90s on a lot of these tracks. This album, produced by Butch Walker, features a number of appearances from Shelby Lynne, and the way that Jakob Dylan and Shelby Lynne are harmonizing on this record, especially on Maybe Your Heart's Not In It No More and Darlin' Hold On. That's the last song on the A side. Kind of brings the pace of the record down a little bit. It's a great way to, cap off the first half of the record. And then you turn this thing over. Move the River is the next song, and that probably has the best hook on this record so far. Super groovy. Just absolutely love that song. Who's That Man Walking Around My Garden is the second to last track, penultimate track. Wonderful, just again, very upbeat, groovy song. And this album, from start to finish, 10 songs, 40 minutes, has a really good ebb and flow, really nice pace. It's really good to have Jakob Dylan back. I think that this record is going to stand out this year, and I think a lot of people are going to get back into the Wallflowers because of this album. I think that this record is strong enough and good enough as a whole, and all the songs individually. There's not a weak song on this record. There are very few weak moments. I'm still trying to come up with some type of constructive criticism, something that I think could be better about this record. And I've listened to it 3 times now, and I've yet to come up with anything. I'm sure I will down the road. Try to be like that. I try to be balanced and and give that different perspective. But I'm going to vinyl please this thing. You need to buy this record. It's fantastic to have the Wallflowers and Mr. Dylan back. So kudos to you, my friend, for all your efforts on this record. I hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video and share it as well. Check out the live show on Sunday nights, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on the Beat Sessions.